Welcome, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Lynn Berger, host of Lynn Berger Interviews Remarkable People. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Kay Unger. She is a CEO of Kay Unger Design, COO of the Kay Unger Family Foundation, Chair Emeritus at Parsons School of Design, trustee at the New School. She's on the board of the City of Hope Cancer Hospital and the New York Stem Cell Research Foundation. Do you think that's enough? Kay, thank you for being here today. I've been so excited to speak with you. So take me back to your earlier influences, and did you know what you wanted to do?
Well, when I was young, I sort of did things differently. I learned a little bit differently. I have ADD, I'm slightly dyslexic, and most of the people like us are very artistic. So I learned to sew at age 8, and I used to take the bedspreads off the bed, and at night when my parents would go to sleep, and make them into skirts and give them to people for holiday gifts. So that was sort of the beginning. But someone said to me when I was in high school, follow your art. Don't try to be like everybody else. And it was such fabulous advice. So I wasn't the cheerleader, I was the one who decorated everything and became sort of a gala queen early in my age, did all the parties and so on. But when I went off to college, I went to Washington University in St. Louis as a painter. I realized I wasn't the best painter. So my second year I thought, you know what, I'm gonna try fashion. I'm gonna go towards things that I like. I also noticed when I went to college, I was raised, my mother wore beautiful clothing, that the girls were not dressed very well. And I kept thinking, I would like to sort of cover the asses of the masses at a reasonable price. I was lucky, I was brought up on really fine clothing. My mother wore couture. And that was kind of my goal. How do I dress everybody, make them feel good, but at a really reasonable price? And that's when I came up with that saying.
Well, first of all, I love the saying. And when you got to do that, lead us a little bit through the college experience and how you started your career. And even before that, I do have a question. How did your mother respond to the fact that you took the bedspreads off the beds?
She thought the housekeeper was stealing. So I let her know that. Well, I met husband number one, Gary Unger, when I was at Washington U. He was a year ahead of me. He was studying architecture. And I said, look, you're from Houston, Texas. We think we're going to be together. I'm not going to be able to design and work in Houston. Get a job in New York. And if you do, he went to work for Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill, a really, really good architecture firm. I said, I'll apply to Parsons or maybe Rhode Island School of Design. If I get in, then I'll move to New York, and that's what happened. And I came to New York, and I loved Parsons, and it was funny. It was like the era of Mad Men. I came to school the first week with a pillbox hat, little white gloves, and a little sort of Jackie O dress. Within a week, I had dreads and gypsy skirts. I was allowed to be the me I didn't know I was. I was all these crazy things. Eventually, my father died my second year. I got married at 21. My father died the year after I got married. And I sort of thought, and he always had said to me, you're going to be able to do anything you want, which was quite rare for a very successful dad to tell a daughter.
Absolutely.
And I thought, you know what? One, I'm not ready to be married. I'm not ready to cook and do all that. I have talent, I want to work, and that's what I did. And when my dad died, he had plenty of money, but he didn't leave me money. And my mom wouldn't pay for my school, so I had to get 2 scholarships, graduated. And 2 years after I graduated, I had worked for Train and Norell and done some fabulous work. I got a check from my dad's estate for $25,000. And I went to Liberty of London, who had always wanted me to use their fabrics, and nobody was then. Beautiful prints and colors. And I said, here's a check. I'm going to pick all these fabrics, And they said, where do you want it shipped? I said, I guess my apartment. And that's how I started. I started making clothes. I kept a day job, close at night. I had made great relationships from the people I'd worked for, and started what was Kay Unger in 1970, which then eventually became Gillian, St.
I
Gillian.
love those Gillian dresses, yeah.
And I did that because I brought in 2 male partners. I wish I'd stayed longer doing it on my own. It would have been interesting, but I brought in 2 guys, and I thought, why should I be the only one with the name? Eventually, later, we made it Kay Unger, which, you know, it was St. Gillian, and then it became Kay Unger New York. I went through, you know, a time where one partner left, the other one embezzled all the money, and we went bankrupt in 1995, and I started over 2 weeks later.
How was that starting over? Was that a surprise or a shock? Or?
I had a feeling because all of a sudden my ex-partner bought a $10 million house in Southampton, and I was putting, you know, the pennies together to buy something in Bellport, Long Island. And so I started to hire someone to do the research, and then the banks caught it. And that was it. I remember it was, my youngest son was about to be bar mitzvah, and I said, that's it. After that, I'm leaving. We went bankrupt. And I had to start over.
Well, that really propelled you forward, but, you know, 2 weeks later, that's a fast bounce back.
Well, what it was the president of our company. His father was in the industry. And we had a factory in Korea, and the head of the factory, he was incredible, said, here's $1 million to my partner if you can get Kay Unger to come back into the business. And we did.
Well, that's a great story.
That's how I got back in.
And since then, what has it been like for you?
Well, for 17 years, after that, I was 23 years for the first business, 17 for the second part. And then it was time, my kids said to me, actually, Mom, you've got 2 sons, you already have some grandchildren, you travel 30 weeks a year, personal appearances, 10% of everything you sell on those goes to cancer research, because I had cancer at 16. I think you've done it all. We would love you to sell your shares. And I thought about it, and I remember I had grand jury duty for 2 weeks, where it was heaven. I only thought about, you know, the cases and the drugs that people were selling. And I came back and I said, you know what? This is it. I'm going to say goodbye. And I did. And it was really something. I sold my shares. The company still is Kay Unger. And it was just an opening, as I said to you. I've had many lives. I would say that was my second or third. And I had a wonderful friend who did what they call crisis PR. I said, I want an article in Women's Wear. I wanted to talk about what I'm doing next, but I don't want to say I'm a consultant. That feels like somebody without a job. He says, why don't you say what you are? You are a designer, but you're a philanthropist.
Oh, absolutely. I want to get to that. Yes.
And when I was 4, my 7-year-old brother drowned. And my dad set up a foundation in his honor at Boys Clubs of America. It was unbelievable. And we raised money and gave money to young kids talented in the arts and music. And I saw how it changed their lives. So always, from even when my kids, once I got married, my kids, I had children, it's just part of my soul. I love it. And I think it's so vital. It makes you feel good. And it's interesting, when I sold my shares in my company, I was very proud of the fact that I had set up a foundation of my own, Kay Unger Family Foundation, in 2010 when my mom died. And I could do more things with that foundation. And it was really incredible. So, but when I left my company, 3 months later, I became the chairman of the board of Parsons School of Design.
Let's go back for a second to the Boys and Girls Club of America.
Well, when my father set it up, it was just boys clubs.
Okay.
And then when I was 30, I was asked to be the first woman on the board as they changed to Boys and Girls Clubs.
Because I know it as Boys and Girls Club. So when you were younger, did you go to events? Did you see the direct service that was?
Absolutely. You would see, you know, all the after-school programs. You would see, for example, Emmanuel Axe, who is one of the most amazing pianists, was one of our scholars. Even if one of our young scholars didn't become that artist, you know, we would get them at 6 and 7 and so on. It gave them the confidence to, you know, sort of find themselves. And I do feel so many people in the arts and being, you know, so involved with Parsons, we do often learn differently, and the art and the music is our way to communicate that pulls our thoughts together.
Absolutely.
I'm also very involved in something called Promise Project, which helps people with ADD who can't afford the medicine and the therapy.
Oh, tell me a little bit about that.
It's interesting. Dana Buchman, the famous designer, she discovered her daughter was so opposite of her. Dana was very focused, type A, and her daughter couldn't do that. And then she finally learned about her. And therapy and medicine helps these kids, but if you can't afford it, you don't get it. So the first thing I really got very involved with Parsons before I became chair was the Parsons Scholars Program, which is high school kids, where they come, we give them full scholarships to come every Saturday for 3 years and 2 months every summer. And we educate them in the arts, etc.
Oh, that's so
and
nice.
They're the first in their family to graduate high school and go to college. We have a 95% success rate. So that fit right into my niche.
Oh, I mean, you've blended it all so wonderfully. And then I know that there's other philanthropic efforts you've been involved in and some that are very recent. Would you share with us?
Well, first of all, I'm still very involved in my alma mater, Parsons, and the New School. And now I've joined the board of the College of Performing Arts there in the Mannes School of Music because we're trying to combine. We feel music and art is so vital together.
Yes.
So through that, but also I got very involved several years ago in the New York Stem Cell Research Foundation through Paul Goldberger. He's a wonderful architectural writer. He wrote a book about, included me in a book about my very first apartment that I bought in 1970. And he's faculty there. And his wife started this New York Stem Cell Research Foundation. Their son has a type 1 diabetes. So here I am. I had cancer at 16. And so I'm always looking for what we do for that. My mother had macular degeneration. My grandmother and my aunt died of breast cancer. And my ex-husband, the father of my children, has Alzheimer's. And so we look at how to solve all this through stem cells. And I'm happy to say that a week ago we merged, and I helped work on this, with Jackson Labs, which is the largest in the world for the study of mice. And we're combining these two to be able to do almost anything in the way of finding solutions to these kinds of illnesses. I think I'd like to talk a little bit, and I know you're into this, transition.
Absolutely.
And I've become like the expert on
I don't even know where to go here. There's so many different, and what are we at, chapter, you said 2, 3, we're moving to 4. Yes. I would like to hear more about the motivations that are behind these transitions, and our viewers can kind of maybe grasp onto one or two what happened to you.
Well, and I think, Lynn, about your background, you're really trained in this area, and it's just another form of mentoring. I love, like my partner, he's great when we go to some of the events at the schools I work with, and he goes, how do you talk to young people? I said, I have a much harder time talking to old people. I love them. They keep you alive and so on. And it's very good to help mentor them, get them to their next step. But since I made such a big jump from a very successful company to a whole new life, so many people send me, and we sort of met through similar situations.
Oh, absolutely, a mentoring,
the Wisdom
yes.
Of so-and-so's leaving their job. How do we, can she talk to you? Can he talk to you? What's next? How'd you decide? And I just try and meet people, and it's kind of like when I said I wanted to cover the asses of the masses. When you talk to people, you have to listen. You have to hear what they think they want. It's just like fitting a dress. I understand how to solve their problems. And it's just sort of try this. Try, I used to hang out at art galleries on Thursday night because I liked the people I met. And just to see what I was liking, what I was feeling, and being part of Parsons. I didn't know anything about being chairman of a board for almost 10 years. I was part of the committee of 200 women entrepreneurs. I said, I need help. How do I run a board meeting with 42 board members? First, I got hearing aids. So
that's a good thing that you can hear, because we got to hear.
But I actually would have someone. Asking for help is so important.
I mean, you did share with me at a younger age you were not like this.
I was not. I was very shy. And also, when you grow up, I didn't find out I had ADD, believe it or not, until I was 50. I didn't know. And when I finally learned about why I was a little bit different, but I was very shy. I went to New Trier High School, Winnetka, Illinois, 4,000 kids. I didn't speak much. I was shy. And they asked me to speak once I was a fashion designer at their 40th reunion. And I said, and I told you this, that I said, I'm going to say more words than I ever said when you knew me in high school. And they all realized that. I told you about the woman who discovered the BRCA gene. She says, I didn't know Kay Unger was Kay Epstein, who I grew up with. I wear your clothes everywhere.
Well, there is, for everyone, we grow, we develop, our personalities evolve, and you're a pure example. Now, I'd like to ask you something. Who were your mentors and role models? You like to have mentees, but who were yours?
It's really interesting. I didn't. My father, while he was alive, was really the only mentor I think I had. When I went into business, I knew no one. No one. I could have used a mentor. When I finally discovered the first women's group, the Committee of 200, but I was already in business for 10 years. I was like, oh my God. And I actually called a meeting of these, at least 24 showed up within 24 hours to help me when I realized my partner was embezzling the money from the company. And those people, those women were my mentors. And
so what do you think about the world today and the world that you really worked so hard to create a life for yourself? Do you see it that it was harder or that it gave you more room? Where do you see the differences?
It was hard. Being in the garment industry, I was one of the very few women who owned her own company.
Right.
And, most of them were owned by another company, a larger company. So it was hard, and it was very male-oriented. I have to say, when I became chairman of Parsons, it was so interesting for me because I was so treated just as an equal. And Joel Towers, who I worked with, he was the dean of Parsons. He's now the president of the whole new school. He was the best mentor I think I ever had. And I loved that it was a man.
Well, my next question was, what are you most proud of? I think, to being who you are. But think about it. If someone asks you that question, what are you most proud of?
Well, I think when I talked to you about my sons and how they developed as such wonderful men, fathers, husbands, and I think, they took me away for my big birthday this year. And each of the kids and grandkids said something, and I'm trying to listen, but they just, I don't know, I'm just proud of them because they could have been, different, and they're not. And to be a man who, a father does equal work to the mothers, you don't often see that. And so I don't know if it had anything to do with me, but I'm proud of that.
It had something to do with you.
Well, I wasn't always, I wasn't there for dinner a lot of times. I was always there for bedtime.
There's that whole quality versus quantity. You can be around all the time, but if you're not really with them, So you did your job and you did it well.
I respect stay-at-home moms.
Oh,
I
yes.
really, really do. I think I would have been awful at it. I loved being the part-time mom. I love being a grandparent. I told you I'm working on the Halloween
the
costumes,
best costume.
which is my therapy.
Yes, yes. Well, you did something. You did a lot right. I mean, they saw your energy, they saw your passion, and...
Well, you know, it's just, and the change, I think having time to yourself where you're not going to a job where you have to be there. It's usually not 9 to 5, it's usually 8 to whatever, but not having to be in the same place every day. The change is so freeing. I am my own boss, and that's worth transitioning to, owning your own life.
And well-deserved. And we have a few minutes left, so I have a couple of other questions. As you look back, what would you say the best lesson during your career, and then I want to talk about your philanthropic work, what do you see, and then maybe we could talk about your family, yet what do you see as the best lesson, if you can convey something through your years of work, moving ahead, the challenges you faced?
Respecting and listening to the people, your family, your board members, your people you work with is really, really vital. So when I could help a woman who's been through menopause and no longer has a waistline, and I used to also say, our folds cover your folds, and that's something a man wouldn't understand.
Right, absolutely.
You know, that listening is really vital.
I know there's constant chapters in your life. So what are you focused on now? Where is your energy and time going?
Well, it's interesting. I feel that I'm in my next transition because one, this sort of opportunity, I have a wonderful opportunity with this merging of these two scientific companies.
Right.
And it's so, the fact that they very much want me part of it. I always said, why would you want sort of this artistic brain on your board? And they said, well, you make us think differently. We may not take your advice, but we will listen and you make us look at things differently. And that's a real challenge because I love the challenge of having to learn something new. And also science and how it's going to help us is really important. So that's one thing. And then I'm trying to really look at my philanthropy. Where can I make the biggest difference? So I'm trying to focus, although it's hard for me because I love too many different parts,
Right.
On what that is. And I also work on a wonderful collection called Line in the Sand.
Yes, I want to hear about that
And that's
also.
I think what I love about Line in the Sand, one, Lynn O'Brien, the founder, who is a woman who was discovered she had leukemia and like 11 or more years ago. And you can't go in the sun because you're under chemotherapy and different therapies for cancer. And she has 3 kids, a fabulous husband, and they have a boat, and they do every outdoor sport. And I met her through the board with someone on the board at Parsons. And she found this fabric in Italy that was made from the plastic waste in the ocean. So everything we do is, 1, sustainable. 2, it's UV 50. And as now I'm older, I used to sit in the sun. I've had more things removed, and it can be very serious. You can get a melanoma.
Oh, absolutely, no, yes.
So now we're doing this product called Line in the Sand, and Lynn wanted to make her line in the sand. She said, I'm tired of asking people for money. I want to give them a product that they can buy. I'll give the money. So we donate all the profits to cancer research and the ocean. And I love her. I've gotten to know her. She's just fantastic. She was a lawyer. She worked for Biden Moonshot, all these things, and started this and has learned this business from nothing. And it has not been easy with China and America and making it, but working on a project that goes towards helping people, helping their lives, helping them from, not have cancer. Also, she's like a little bit bigger size than I am, and we wanted to be size friendly, and that you can wear it everywhere. I was wearing it this morning before I got dressed.
I saw you once wear it over the weekend, yes.
It's I love it. I pack it for everything. And then when it's cold, I wear it under everything when it's skiing and so on and so forth. So to work on a project that gives back and you love the people you're involved with is just so exciting, and trying to help it grow. And, you know, we've been through finding, you know, where to make it and what to do. And I was just at a factory, which was part of where we made some of it. And I met all new people. I wouldn't even, came back to producing in the Garment Center actually during COVID when I made PPE.
Yes, that's another.
Millions.
Well, this last project, and of course the PPE project that unfortunately we'll have to have a new show for. We have to talk about that. These blended the best parts of you. It has been a pleasure speaking with you. You are like the energized bunny. You don't stop.
See me later.
But very in the most positive way possible. Whatever you do, whoever you meet, you give it your all. And it was a pleasure to speak with you today.
I'm so honored to be asked. We're new friends.
Yes,
but
we're
I
new
kinda
friends.
Love it.
Yeah, I love it too. Take care.
Next time you're gonna wear a tie.
Yes, we're gonna do a little bit of pre-fashion discussion. Thank you.
Thank you,
again.
Lynn.